Just like this for myself and other surviving victims that have access to all the class action suits filed for all the deaths and injuries these drugs are causing. Do not leave such poisons on the market in ignorance. They are allowing the torture and deaths of innocent Americans by doctors and nurses now, just like CNN exposed during Katrina. Doctors and nurses have been busted globally doing illegal organ harvesting, and for every news story that we hear about, there are millions of victims dead by the ones not caught. I, for one, will not and cannot remain silent at this outrage. As a result of what these wicked persons did to me, I suffer in my person so horribly at times that I have to struggle to find the will to live. As such, whatever days I have left on earth, I will use whatever strength and ability God gives me to alert all citizens that this evil is becoming epidemic. And if we do not unite together and hold our leaders accountable for allowing such heinous atrocities to go on unaddressed, and if we do not demand public oversight of all hospitalized procedures, specifically in the manners I suggest on this website, then these crimes will become so prevalent that not just the secretive ones already in practice, but open exterminations upon innocent citizens truly loom in the very near future. Please, help me put public pressure on all authorities and create public awareness so that these criminals in government and in hospitals will find themselves properly behind bars, or better yet executed, for their mass murders and heinous, torturous atrocities. I affirm the truth of this statement this 4th of July, 2010 before all heaven and earth. After years of trying in vain and documented efforts to contact any and all responsible parties that could help me ensure public safety from criminals that I cannot and will not tolerate on the loose. This is just another documented effort of mine to ensure you and your loved ones' safety. I will not give up fighting along with living and brave, deceased patriots and global heroes and heroines against this kind of evil in our midst until I prevail or die trying. Respectfully for all who stand against these abominations with me, Michael Swenson. And keep in mind that the letter I'm about to read and sending to respective governors and the President is proof that their offices have been notified repeatedly by me, and as to the content of what I'm sending to them as a result of my frustration over years of polite pleas, repeatedly submitted to them all in vain. Have evidence of all of those pleas, including the $10 trillion class action suit I filed because of these crimes, in which all of these personages and parties and responsible entities of our government were clearly served and notified. I have proof of all that, and I have proof of all the signed return receipts that with years of persistence, I have been unable to find even one single competent individual in our government anywhere willing to address these atrocities that I have personally survived and witnessed firsthand, suffering unfortunately to this day from. And so this is the result of my frustration over the fact that none of these people are fulfilling their oaths of office. None of these people care about your and my safety any longer. They'd rather play golf with their rich, greedy buddies, man, that are responsible for the blood-soaked bills, man, being used to bribe politicians to make us, in their minds, be as nothing. Will you not help me restore sanity to America and fight for the freedoms and the justice and the very lives of you and your children? Officials that are responsible, competent persons of integrity, if there are any left in the government anywhere. Here's the letter. I'm going to show you. I'm enclosing this too. I'm not just reading it. I'm enclosing this to these people. They're going to get this letter. Because all the proofs of service and stuff, and all the signed return receipts, they can just say some other content was in the letter. So I'm showing you the content. I'm going to show you I'm enclosing it in these letters. I'm going to show you I'm mailing it. I'm tired of their lies. I'm tired of these people not behaving responsibly and ethically, not doing their duties, man. They are not performing their oaths to serve and protect us. They are preying upon us, and they are condoning, man, by their inactions at the very least, by their negligence at the very least, horrendous atrocities being committed within the borders of this country. I have directly informed yours and many respective and pertinent offices that I'm an eyewitness and personal survivor of atrocities being committed within the United States of America. I have personally witnessed and survived mass murdering positions in the states of Washington and Idaho. I have personally suffered from police so corrupt that they blackmail women for sex acts rather than arrest them for first-degree attempted homicide like they should. I have told you that an FBI agent threatened to lock me up if I even tried to present the evidence of these atrocities. I have told you that I spent all my strength, energy, and resources contacting every agency, medical review board, governing official on a local, state, and federal level, including a personal visit to the U.S. Prosecutor's Office where a prosecutor, instead of looking at said evidence, decided to mock and insult me, and I have proof of this. I filed a civil complaint in U.S. District Court and named all executive powers that had jurisdiction over these matters to make certain they were served. This was after direct notification through USPS, signed return receipt of all named authorities who had sat on their overpaid, corrupt, lazy, apathetic, complicit asses and did nothing. And knew that they were leaving mass murderers and rapists in offices of public trust, and with proof of legal service in my hands, the court dismissed the case before any hearings by alleging no such service had even occurred. Even the Court of Appeals lied on record, stating no brief was ever filed when I have copies of the filed notice and brief as evidence that I did. The Court of Appeals returned my electronic submission on media in addition to the written one and alleged that they had never even received such. I have proof of delivery by the United States Postal Service and return from them in my holdings. In short, I have done everything a citizen can do within our structured system to no avail, and daily I have to live with how many others are being tortured and murdered right now as I speak to you. Because of my inability to find even one intelligent, competent professional in government anywhere. And because when you have the duty, the authority, the power, the weapons, the armor, and responsibility to make all necessary arrests without loss of life, including your own, you force citizens without such blessings to have to consider taking matters into their own hands to ensure public safety. Do your jobs. Your lazy, apathetic, ignorant, wicked, evil, and corrupt attitudes and actions or complete lack thereof are inexcusable. After contacting all authorities with any jurisdiction over these matters, every single one of these entities are either so corrupt, so lazy, so ignorant, so apathetic, or so evil, they have without exception all made excuses why not to do their jobs and duties but to leave said murderers, mass murderers, rapists, accessories, and accomplices loose in places of public trust that they all most definitely have responsibility over. By your apathetic and unprofessional attitudes, you also under law can be held criminal and civilly liable for negligence if not brought up on charges of accessory and accomplices yourself, aiding and abetting known felony offenders. In fact, the attitudes I have universally met with in all offices of public trust are so appalling, I think you all should be permanently removed from your positions, without pay, without benefits, without pensions, and brought to trial to suffer the same consequences as the vile filth you are allowing to run free. Can any of you or any public official anywhere explain to me why you all don't deserve the death penalty when you leave mass murderers and sex offenders loose to prey upon innocent citizens at will when you have the authority and responsibility of your offices to stop them? Can any of you explain why in gross negligence and extreme violations of your oaths of office and service, in allowing heinous offenses to be committed against innocent citizens, even despite survivors' pleas and petitions, why you should not all be brought up on charges of high treason meriting capital punishment for violations of the U.S. Constitution, civil rights, humanitarian rights, and international laws? If you are unaware of these factual events that I am relating in my struggle through personal agony I imagine few can endure, or the past recent years to save others from these wicked persons, or have never heard from me before, then the recommended consequences herein, unless you likewise aid the perpetrators of these atrocities by your actions or inaction, do not pertain to you, and the well-deserved insults and intentions towards very corrupt officials in our government. But be sure of this, their psychological inability to consider that I am telling the truth about factual events and need their assistance in arresting mass murderers still at large, and sex offenders still at large, and corrupt officials who are for insane reasons obviously covering up these crimes from public knowledge, does not mean you have to join in their apathetic attitudes or lethargic actions. If you, by your lack of action, allow such criminals to remain at large, what is to ensure the safety of yourselves, your relations, or anyone else you might actually care about. Your prompt attention to this matter is most seriously petitioned. I am no longer going to plead with the same authorities for you to get off your lazy, corrupt asses, you most sorry excuses of humanity. I am going to tell and show the whole world all that I have done to secure their health and safety, and all of your replies demonstrating your direct complicity in all of these crimes. You will do your duties in this life, and you will fulfill your oaths, for by Almighty God I will stand, along with all the victims of heinous atrocities you allowed to go on, and in the white throne judgment with God Christ, and remind He holds the keys of paradise and hell. Why, there is no way you should hold any position of power and authority now or in eternity, and why you should most definitely burn with the murderers and rapists you did nothing to stop, and surviving victims did everything. Signed under penalty of perjury, sincerely and without any respect for you all deserve none. Michael Swenson. This 4th day of July 2010. That's me. I'm not ashamed. I'm telling the truth. Get off your asses. Stop leaving mass murderers, and rapists loose to prey upon innocent citizens. Order an investigation. Find some competent, intelligent individuals that I can talk to and show this evidence that can understand that it is evidence. So far, everybody I've met, man, needs to be educated to even understand, the medical evidence that I'm trying to present. It's no wonder these people are getting away with their crimes. Apparently, we've got a bunch of people that just like to play golf, running things. When are we going to have decent leadership? And if you are decent leadership, then I'm telling you, Americans are being murdered at will. Because apparently you're not organizing competent, intelligent individuals to protect them. So please start right now. Should have been yesterday. Should have been yesteryear. Should never have occurred. As you can see, this letter that I just read is clearly being inserted into the highest office of the land, because all offices underneath them have done nothing. Nothing. Great excuses like sit on their ass and go play golf. Leave rapists in uniform. If you're a cop and you're wanting the public to respect you instead of calling you pigs and stuff, deservedly so as far as I can tell, then you need to arrest the scumbags in your own ranks. Stop thinking that just because they wear the uniform that there's somehow, a code of honor in remaining silent. It shouldn't be your worst caller to make. It should be your highest caller to make sure there are no scum in your own ranks, because it affects how everyone else in the entire citizenry sees your office. Get rid of the scumbags in your own ranks, and politicians do the same. Get rid of all bribe-taking, politicians that think that just because they're taking a little bit of money, there's no harm done. When millions are dying under the oppression, suffering and dying, because of personal greed and corruption. It's time, man, for honor, righteousness, integrity, man, to once again hold office. It's time for once again the truth to be taught little children that they came from God and not monkeys. Science has proven it. And what? And the reason that knowledge is suppressed is because governments can manipulate brainwashed idiots a lot easier than they can manipulate sons and daughters of the Most High God that know better. Can actually think. President is getting a copy of this. sealed. Sending the same letter. You see it's the same letter. Signed. To U.S. Department of Justice. Why? Because as I read to you, Department of Justice employees, man, are breaking the law. Claiming no legal services made when services made by U.S. district judges, that person should be permanently banned from practicing law, if not arrested for conspiracy in these issues. In the U.S. Court of Appeals, man, when I had evidence that they had the brief delivered to them and they claim that no such brief ever even arrived, when I had evidence that it was delivered to their clerk and sent back to me, yeah. Not only was it previously filed before that, but copies were then later set that they returned to me, claiming that they never got it. All those individuals need to be permanently debenched and held accountable. 911 is the tip of the iceberg of what these people are doing globally. And for all you out there that are still, self-deluded, man, or successfully propagandized into believing that our government had nothing to do with 911, you need to do some research fast. Because every time our governing officials and any other government is left to think that it's okay to prey upon their own citizens, man, and just murder them at will for whatever reason, only encourages future governing leaders, man, to consider that it's okay to do the same thing and no one will hold them accountable. We must hold them accountable. I'm going to do everything I can in my life, whatever's left of it, to make sure these people are held accountable. We have gone way off of our heritage and way off what's sane into a land of, extreme jeopardy, man, to not just quality of life and freedom, but to your survival. We must address these things. We have to address these evils. They cannot be allowed to go on unaddressed any longer. The public must spread the word until these criminals are no longer able to get away with their crimes. And in spreading the word, put whatever pressure is necessary until these people are held accountable, or until the people that we've elected to serve and protect us actually do so. Okay, so far that's two. The President and the U.S. Department of Justice Office of Responsibility. Now I'm sending that same notice also to the previously notified FBI headquarters. Because one of their underlings in a local office decided to threaten me. And the reason being is not because he didn't believe I was telling the truth. The reason being is because the scumbag knew I was telling the truth. I know he knows I know he knows that I was telling the truth and that he was covering for his corrupt officer buddies, not wanting the scandal to play out. In other words, he'd rather leave rapists in uniform to prey upon innocent citizens than arrest them. They're all buds. It's only proper to cover for one another. They want us to respect them, to hold their uniform with honor and respect and integrity when the people in it, man, are anything but. I'm not saying all of them, but far too many of them. Why the hell have none of our authorities, man, arrested the treasonous politicians, man, over 911 when the evidence is overwhelming? When we've got architects and scientists and first-hand eyewitnesses, firefighters, law enforcement that were there trying to come forward and enlighten the public and the world, man. But they even heard the countdown as they pulled the buildings, man, in controlled demolition.